curriculum pay goes, example goes from $18 to $21 an hour.
Yeah.
I think that's just
That hasn't been
probably,
updated since like 2017,
Yeah,
something like that. Or that was updated in 2017, and that's the 2017 version. That was the most recent update, so. We have been paying that, our handbook language does not reflect that. It was on a separate amendment doc.
Okay.
That was published in 2017, when those pay rates were adjusted, so.
Okay.
That's what we are paying, it just hasn't, this handbook just has not been updated in a lot of years.
questions, any other questions on this?
Thank you, Lori.
No.
Thanks, Brady.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Brady.
Yes.
Is there a plan to share this with the teachers? Arguing that it's final board action. I don't see anything.
I think the plan was not to, because it's not impacting our teachers. It is adding the people that have not been included in that group that are not part of that teacher rep group. If that makes sense.
I'm sure they'll get updated on the sick days. I mean, that's the major one that would be different than in the past, so I would hope that
Oh,
information,
yeah.
is passed on to them. Anything else? Do you have any pleasure on what to do on recommending this? I'm looking for a motion for the changes.
I'll move that we accept the changes that have been presented.
I have a motion to amend the professional staff handbook.
Staff handbook.
Yeah.
I'll second.
No? It's not an amendment?
I'm just wondering if he's not a member of that committee, he can move. Or you
I
are a
am.
member.
I am, yeah. I'm
Okay.
Yeah, he's legal. Did I get a second?
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
I got a
okay.
second from.
I can't remember who's on which one.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
We all look the same.
Motion and a second.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And that is,
Looked like a good cleanup job to me.
yeah. The second thing Michael had was this handout.
Yeah.
He went through the wages for when he was hiring the HVAC person that we just hired. After that gentleman started, then some of the other people came up and said, well, he's making this much and blah, blah, blah. And so Michael went through those wages also that haven't been looked at in a few years. And on this sheet of paper are what he thinks we should go to. He made a couple, when we were discussing this, the question was, well, what if we just hired somebody privately to come in and do this work? And
Oh,
we didn't
yeah.
have,
I appreciated them doing.
and part of the problem there is with a electrician working for us, with a plumber working for us, that gets taken care of quicker.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting for somebody to come and do it. The other thing is he priced these out, and if they were, how did he say this? The specialized things that they do are 30 to 40% of the job. Okay. He then compared that and said, if I price that out to a private contractor, it'd be $115,000. And that's not with any benefits or anything.
That's an average pay, to be honest with you, starting maybe a little bit, 115,000 would be a little bit higher. I look through these things and you gotta understand that I am a tradesman on here. I am an electrician.
Yeah.
I wouldn't work for this. Even
You wouldn't work for the school
No.
system? Oh, yeah.
even the proposed new increases, even at the place that I work, they've got unschooled, like you gotta understand, these guys gotta go to school for 4 years and they're also doing a 4-year apprenticeship with it.
Yeah, sure.
We've got unskilled labor that starts at this wage.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't, wow, I seen that, and I said, how are we getting anybody to do those jobs?
Well, and I think that's why he took this step, because hiring the HVAC guy was tough. Luckily, we got somebody that wanted to move back in this direction from us, and was making a long drive every day.
Most, and as far as the school district goes, most of the electrical stuff you're gonna be doing is gonna be more of a residential. And those people are starting average 40 plus an hour.
Oh, really?
Starting.
Yeah.
So I see that and I'm just shocked.
And part of that, probably he would explain, is that they're not doing it full-time. Is why it's a little less than the $40 an hour, because
It's only 20 hours a week.
yeah, so if they're not, you know, if there's no need for an electrician because everything is working perfectly in the district,
Yeah.
they give other jobs to those people to do.
Okay.
So that's where even
Okay.
it would cost us more if we hired a company to come in at part-time. So that was his
They
logic.
may not be doing their entire trade for that
Right.
whole week.
Right.
Oh, okay. I can understand that, then that makes a little bit.
But Matt, I think that's a good conversation to have with you,
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah.
You know, and let him know that if we need somebody and it starts becoming something that we have to have,
Yeah.
or maybe as we proceed through some of these building proposals, we may need to have somebody that's full-time,
Right.
you know, and then you're gonna have to pay a little more money to get that for a while.
I mean, I don't know, and maybe I'm partial for an electrician, but
Yeah.
I can't imagine them being able to keep up with everything that needs to be done in 20 hours. Just because no matter what, there's always lights to be changed and things like that. Whether or not, if they're not redoing anything or running the wires or conduit, that type of stuff, there's always upkeep. And it's a constant upkeep. So I don't know. I just looked at it and I said, I don't know what to say on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think that'd be a good.
Well, it's a good perspective, you know, I wouldn't know that.
Any other questions on this?
No, I mean, it's just a proposal at this point, isn't it?
It's a proposal that, yes, we'd like to pass on to the board, and again, I would not.
Well, it's
have-
just, it's just informational at this point, right? It's.
He would like to go to this.
Oh, you'd like to go. to
Yes,
this,
he would
okay.
like to do this. And again, these kind of things, I would pass on as a committee report, not just,
Well, it's an improvement.
you know, lost word.
I mean, we have.
Consent agenda. No,
We
these
have a
would
lower
be
starting
discussion.
salary, but a higher maximum.
Yeah.
At the very least, I would move that we approve it.
Yeah.
Motion, and I have a second from Chris. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right. That's all I had from Michael. So we'll move on to the policy part of this meeting. Policies being introduced for revision. We got the list of those. It's a little less reading than last time, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Did anybody find anything in there that they wanted to discuss for those?
Yeah, there's no proposals that come with this, is there?
No, this is, again, these are just the ones that we pass on.
Yeah,
and
controversial.
we can do as a group, because these are the mirrored policies.
Not these introduction ones.
Just the ones that are being introduced for
They
the first time.
introduced.
Yeah, but you wouldn't consider those mirrored policies. There's some changes and stuff going on there. I mean, I didn't see anything that was bad or whatever.
I think that's what he means by mirrored, is there's nothing major that's changing in it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, yeah, well, whatever.
but we give them to you so you can look through them and see if there's something you want
Oh,
to.
sure. Yeah, I read them all, and
I don't think, oh yeah, they are. No, these are not in physical copies. On here.
Those are just, the ones for introduction are linked in board book.
They're linked in Word book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. These are just the ones that were especially.
These are the ones, the physical copies, I think, are the ones we're discussing, yes.
Yeah.
Any pleasure on those?
No.
Before we
any of them, you mean, or just one at a time, or?
No, these are the
Just to
ones
move it
that there's very little change, and we're gonna move these on to the board. Unless there was something.
There's nothing. Not that I've seen anyway.
Okay. Jerry, you got any concerns?
No, I guess not.
We have a motion to move those on.
Motion.
Motion by Chris, do I have a second?
Or I'll be a second.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay, and we'll move those on. All right. The next 5 were policies that were changed or edited. And I asked that these be brought up and be reviewed again because we're getting asked by the community. Some people said, hey, we voted for change and nothing's happening. So we need to talk about this. The other part of this is with the investigation right now going on. This is another aspect of, do we need to go back and look at these because of that investigation? So policy 1 is at 2240, issues in the classroom. Discussion on the possibility of going back to the original wording for that.
I see no indication as to why we should.
Yeah.
The one that we have right now, current, covers everything. Doesn't interfere with anything, covers everything. And it goes by state statute. And it covers up any type of current litigation that's going on right now.
Well, yeah, I think that substantial disruption is a pretty vague concept.
Where are we looking at
It's
this,
used,
Terry?
it's used twice. It's like,
I can't hear you.
it's D on controversial issues. That's what we're looking at.
Oh, substantial disruption?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
What would you
that
like to
means.
change that to?
Well, I think we could leave it out, probably. As in the original. I mean, I don't see it as, I mean, how do you measure what substantial is?
I would leave it up to
and
the
what's
teacher in the
disruptive?
classroom, I guess.
Yeah, I would drop D. I
Well,
would
I mean-
drop D.
Keeping it in there would just give the teacher that extra tool, what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to take any tools.
I don't know what that is.
I don't want to take any tools away from the teacher.
I mean, yeah. You know, on this one, I'm more disturbed about the guidelines developed by the district administrator. But, for the application, I think that, you know, they went way beyond, but with this policy.
Specifically,
That was the one I ended up.
it's right in front of you.
I got that, but we don't have a copy of the district administrator's guidelines.
Yes, you do. It's right next to you.
It's the very next.
We do?
page.
Oh, it's in the packet. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I didn't have that before.
But you're talking about specifics on there, so I'd like to.
Well, I'm specifically, you know, the
Well,
whole.
before we go there, let's stick with
Let's just stick with the
2240.
policy, but, you know.
2240 is where we're gonna stick, and we'll handle that first, and then we'll go to the next one.
Well, I move that we just drop the substantial disruption. I mean, I don't even know what that means.
Katie, how do the two differ between the original Neola and the one that we modified?
So the second page in this is the original Neola where we have the option to make selections. So you'll see that A, B, and C on the original Neola policy are, you can elect to select those as part of your language.
Yeah.
So those are all included on the adopted version, our current version. And then it also talks about the controversial issues related to the program may be initiated by the students, provided they are not disruptive to the educational setting. So that, I believe we added that it's not causing a substantial disruption to the school environment. I think that was when we had our original conversation, that was something that we felt was our own recommendation that we added to that,
Yeah.
as that was not an option for selection from Neola. and then it'll, again, it puts the onus on, you know, with the district administrator who, in that very last section, it selects the district administrator, as developing those administrative guidelines that are concurrent with this policy. So, those bottom options on the second page are who ultimately oversees whether or not, or makes the decision whether or not something is deemed controversial based on the interpretation of this policy.
And on the current one, we have that selected as who? The district administrator?
Yes,
Yeah,
so
it's on there.
that,
Yeah, and that's what we did. That's where the guidelines comes in.
those,
I think
yep,
it's
those
good.
last two paragraphs, correct.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, it says the administrator shall.
I mean, I don't think it changes anything to get rid of what you're talking about.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you want to do that, if that makes you happy, I really don't see a difference though.
Well, I mean, you know, what if students are particularly animated by a discussion, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, I'm not sure that that's a bad thing. And how does one like decide whether it's substantial? Or even, you know, or if it's disruptive? I mean, unless, of course, they march on the school or something, and that arises to a different kind of need for a different kind of policy.
I still want to leave it up to the teacher to be able to take control of that and have that tool in their repertoire, I guess, as part of the policy. But I mean, if like I said, I don't think it changes the entire thing. So if that's what you want to amend, I can accept that.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
mean, I'm
Chris.
not gonna die on this hill, but.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, even if you omit D, the paragraph following it
Yeah, right.
specifically says, and do not cause substantial disruption to the
I
school
know,
environment.
I know.
And in the original said in the next paragraph, and is not disruptive to the educational setting.
Right.
So whether you enumerate it in the
Yeah,
list or
right,
not,
I
it's
prefer
there.
That's why I said if he wants to get rid of it, I'm
I
good with that.
prefer the original wording, but whatever, you know.
And in all cases with policies, the board has a final say.
Yes, so
So-
what we said is we selected, from the top two, selected have been approved by the district administrator, who shall report periodically such approval to the board for their review. So we have that selected, and then, we did not include, we did not elect to have approved by the principal or the department head. So those were not accepted on our current policy. And then the last line that was selected was that teachers may not express a personal opinion. So we elected that last option from
Yeah, I
the
think
second
that's a
page.
good idea. I voted for that, sure.
So, you know, really, we have taken the recommendation of Neola with the exception of adding that letter D, which pulls out, I think, the same thing that the paragraph is saying underneath it about causing substantial.
Like I said, it doesn't change. So I mean, if that's something you want to get rid of, then I'm cool with that. It's basically the same thing.
Motion to do that?
Sure, I'll make a motion to remove the terms,
I'll
to
second that.
remove D and to rescind.
I think you're right,
Also
Matt. I think you're
rescind the
right.
term in the next sentence right after that.
What part of that?
To remove D, and then the next sentence after that, controversy is related to the program, may be initiated by students themselves. That's cool, provided that they are presented in an ordinary course of classroom instruction related to a topic the topic of instruction. And I think in the sentence there.
So what are you trying to remove? The substantial part? Because
I'm
in
trying to
the,
remove the clause after the last comma, and do not cause substantial disruption to the school environment. I
Well,
mean,
in
I
the-
can't possibly see.
in the original Neola, it does say does not cause disruption. We just added the word substantial.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Which
I would move to accept that,
Yeah.
but not the whole sentence.
I mean, substantial is how you define it, I guess, so.
Well, yeah, if you want to remove D and then the word substantial, I'm okay with passing that along.
It's a friendly amendment then?
Sure.
Okay.
MP accepts it.
Depends on who's making the judgment, but, you know.
Well,
It would always be that way.
Well,
Whether the word
that's fine.
substantial is there or not.
I think the reality when this kind of thing happens is, as a school administrator, if something like that was going on in a classroom, you would talk to the teacher, and I would probably also call the superintendent and bounce it off of her or him, and then you sit down with the educator and go, hey, I mean, that's the reality of how this works, rather than the policy. I mean, that's how we change things, unless it was different in grade schools.
We always follow policy perfectly.
Okay, this isn't worth a lot of time.
No. Any other discussion? Also, those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And we go on to number 2, guidelines, administrative guideline manual.
Yeah. Yes.
This is the one where Terry was gonna give me the specifics as to what he didn't like on this?
Oh, no, we're not gonna discuss that.
Oh,
Oh, are we talking about the guy?
yeah, that's the next
Now we're
one.
in the guidelines.
Are we
yeah.
talking, oh, I'm sorry, I was paying attention, but I was. Wool gathering, I guess.
Okay.
I really strongly object to, the current application of this to the parental rights ideological stuff. I mean, I just don't think it has anything to do with this policy. I mean, I don't think it even has very much to do with it.
What part of the parental rights do you not feel they have the right to? I'm just,
Well, we talked about this when this originally went through, but, I mean, this is just sort of an ideological rant, Parents play a primary role in the decision-making. Yeah, I guess that's true, but, why do we need to mention it? Parents are the child's first teacher and remain teachers and role models, et cetera. Why are we mentioning that? What's the implication of all?
maybe I'm
The
speaking.
relationship between the student and the classroom teacher should be positive and, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Terry, maybe I'm saying it differently because I am a parent of a student, but I'm telling you right there that I agree with these things. That was one of the things that I have said from the beginning, that when it comes to my child, I am the ultimate
but we
authority.
have that covered in the policy with, if the controversial issue or the discussion and application of the controversial issue, is contrary to someone, to the parents. I think this is even statutory. Here, let me see. Is contrary to, God, so many papers, okay. A person's religious beliefs, et cetera, their student can be excused from participating in that, right? So I really object to the kind of
The reason why this was introduced is because of the things that are going on, and parents themselves, parents in the community felt that their rights were going to be trampled on. This was a way for the administrator to reassure them. And it says right in the actual policy guideline that policy, that the administrator would develop guidelines. I mean, that's.
right, I know, that's what we're
In these
looking at, right?
guidelines, he's reassuring parents that you are the primary. I mean, this is something that was asked of us by the community.
Can I get examples of how that? I understand what you're saying, and I understand parents' feelings about this. I feel that way as a parent, that, hey, but this was blown up into a huge issue, and I just don't think that was there.
Well, it's.
When I ran, it was, hey, can we get rid of that stuff?
Oh,
I mean, so I think I agree that parents have that right. and should.
Okay.
We've blown this up into something that's bigger, I believe, than actually the problem is.
If you believe that the parents have that right, why would you want to take it out of writing?
Why do I have to put it in?
It's already there. It's already there. I guess what I'm saying is, why would you want to go through the process of taking parents play the primary role in decision makers in their students' educational experience, and parents are the child's first teacher and remain teachers and role models throughout their child's educational journey? What is so wrong with those words that you would want to remove them from?
It's always been that.
Okay, but they're
My
there.
question is, why did we put it in? Because then we start creeping into,
But it's
you gotta have written permission for a nickname.
No, that's a different story.
No, that's in this policy.
Okay, right, but I thought we were addressing these two comments here.
What I'm saying is we started writing down those things that I think parents believe because they're our kids.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we started going farther to the point where, well, we can't do this, and you gotta have written permission to be called a nickname, and we don't want this going on, and it's like, why did that become major when all we were doing was talking about, hey, it's my son or daughter, and I'm the parent.
Yeah.
So now we have to write that down? No, that should be just something that our district is. You are the parent, and if the parents aren't there, the district sometimes has to step up and help those kids.
Sure, but it reassures the parent that you're not gonna go, and this is what the popular decision that was going around the country, let alone Wisconsin.
Yeah.
As at
places like
schools,
Virginia.
we're recognizing children changing their genders, changing their gender names. No, that's not funny, because this is why it was introduced. Changing those things without informing the parents. And this reassured the parents that they were the ones that were in control of them. We were not going to
Listen,
do
but
anything
we're
with
talking
their
about
children.
we're talking
Excuse me.
about an
They were
instructional.
not going to do anything with their children without the parents being aware. That was one of the major things that was going around, and still is to this point. That's the reason why a lot of these changes are coming about. That's the reason why the people are fighting against Title IX changes and things like that. This is a huge topic right now. It's not old news, and it's still in there. And I could never, ever vote for anyone to take any wording out of our policies or guidelines that takes anything away from parental rights. That would be the first thing. I would imagine you would get just as many people coming back here to tell you to take these words out of here would be detrimental.
So even though that's never happened.
It's happening all over here.
Here.
And that's why we
I'm
made,
talking about here.
we made sure that it's,
I don't care what happens in other places. I care about here.
the reason why it happens in other places because they don't have these administrative guidelines.
So what is this topic here? It's controversial issues as they pertain to instruction, right?
No.
They don't say, well, oh, gee, if you change your name, et cetera.
That it-
That doesn't have shit to do with instruction.
Yes, this actually does. It has
Not
to
with
do-
instruction, it doesn't.
Read the entire thing, please, before you go
I've
discussing
read it.
this.
Come on, I've read it. I mean,
It has to do with that, and that was why it was in there. And he even brought it up and asked a question about it. So yes, I'm addressing his question, okay?
Okay.
But that's the whole point, is that we're not gonna, I wouldn't take those out of there. If you want to vote to take them out of there, then, we have to bring it to the
I
board.
just, it's ideological rhetoric is what it is. And
Giving
it
parents-
doesn't have anything to do with the topic sentence of, controversial issues that pertains to, the educational process. It doesn't pertain to, gosh, people changing their names, that's, people changing their whatevers. They may be controversial issues,
They are controversial.
but the controversial issue thing deals with the discussion of topics that might be controversial.
Oh, he had brought up changing names, so that's why we got on that part.
Well, that was an
I even
example.
wonder why that whole last page is part of this.
The deeply held family values
No,
or the student personal and gender identity? Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like,
This,
those are all things that we currently solve in schools. We have students that aren't sure, and they're not, there are times in some students' lives when they don't know and they're trying to figure that out. Can we help them solve it?
none of the school's business what they're doing. It's only the parents' business.
It is if the kid wants to go to the girls' room instead of the boys' room, it's our business then in the school. So we
It doesn't
talk
have
to the
anything to do
parent.
with this
Okay,
policy.
if my daughter, Layla, wants to be called Jonathan and go in a men's bathroom, and you did not tell me that,
You would get a
It doesn't
phone
have anything to
call.
do with this
this
policy.
Mr.
It doesn't have anything to do with
What's
this
wrong with
policy.
having a reassurance?
You sure that?
It's just, it's
We
just,
already do that, and we help the child. It's like,
I mean, make a motion, I guess, is what I'm saying.
yeah, I object to the using this policy, which is essentially, instructive. And if the school, and it says here, if parents object to either the content or the activities, conflicts with his, her religious beliefs or value system, the school will honor a written request for his or her child to be excused from particular classes for specific reasons. That seems to cover that all. I don't, we don't need like the declaration of parental rights here, and we don't need we don't need the rhetoric on that, because most of this doesn't even apply to an activity that goes on instructionally, as in terms of an instructional activity.
This doesn't, I mean, I understand that, but this is an issue that goes on in the classroom, but has nothing to do with classroom instruction. That last part that he's talking about is one of the most important parts. As me, a parent, I don't know, I mean, if you got kids in the schools, I do. This is me.
Yeah, okay, so have a policy for that.
And it is right here. Why do you
No,
want
no.
to, why do you want to take it from me? I'm not talking to you as a board member, I'm talking to you as a father. Why do you want to take that
I'm
from
talking to
me?
you about clarity.
This
Clarity
is
of
very
purpose.
clear to me.
Oh, yeah, well, it's a different subject altogether.
All right.
It's a different subject altogether.
I will fight tooth and nail for
I
this.
know.
I
This
understand
hill,
that.
I'm dying on.
But there are other parents
Okay.
that don't feel that way. We can't just say, we gotta do this because that's how you feel. There are others that don't.
Great.
We've done everything you're asking and everything you're saying to protect your daughter, we do in schools. 50 years ago, we let kids out of classes if they didn't want to go to science class because they were talking about evolution. The kid went to a different room and did some work with some other kids that were out of those classes. We've been doing this for years.
I don't understand why this is a big deal. We've had a graduating member of Lincoln this last year who was, used a different sex name than that they were given, okay? And it was, the parent wrote it down, had no problem. I knew the lady, she's wonderful. And that doesn't make, no problem to me.
it was
It's not
handled.
hard, just write a letter, give it
It
to
was
them.
handled. It was handled. It wasn't handled because of this. It was handled because the people in that school took interest in that child and helped that child
Yeah,
through.
but she would have never written the letter. This gives us assurance that the parents know about it.
The parents
Doesn't
don't even know
assure
this
that.
exists.
You wanna know how many kids are called nicknames in the high school and it's not
We're not
written down
talking about
anywhere?
nicknames, you
No,
know
I'm-
exactly what we're talking about.
Matt, this doesn't do jack for that because it's not always followed.
Okay.
It's
So now
done
you're
because
saying-
of the
now you're
good
bringing to
people who
attention
work.
School administrators and teachers that aren't following policy. That's a whole different subject we're on.
It's always been done. They,
So it's just not followed. We have this, but you said it's not
no, it's just
followed.
written down. It's written down on this piece of paper and some of this stuff people go, you think every football coach wants a written piece of paper saying, yeah, I'm gonna call your kid this nickname? You think they do that on the field? They don't do that.
Yeah,
So that's violating policy. They probably don't even know they're violating policy. It's a school activity. They should have it written down. We do things in schools because it's the right thing to do, and they've been doing it for years without this. Because somewhere in the United States, somebody got upset about something and it's a deal.
What I don't get is you say that it's the right thing to do. You say that the things in here are already done because it's the right thing to do, but let's take the wording away. I don't get why.
Because some of this wording is offensive.
But you just,
Some people,
I don't.
you just said it's the right thing to do and we do it all the time.
we do it. What I'm saying is the wording is offensive. All of your concern
What
with,
wording is offensive? Let's work on that.
all of your concern about trans kids and that whole issue, pronouns, we gotta do this and that. All of those things are taken care of, but we don't write it down and make this huge policy about it because we have to do that and it's never been done. We've been doing it forever. But for some reason, people go, oh, this is a big issue in the country now, we have to handle this, blah, 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 blah.
We gotta make sure our kids are protected, yes.
They've been protected.
But that's not the issue.
If a child is being referred to as a gender that they are not, that their parents are not aware of at school, and we don't tell the parents,
Mom and dads, I don't know anybody who's never not let a parent know.
okay, well, there's thousands of instances throughout the country is what I'm saying.
Country.
This right here is
Right.
what gives Manitowoc, hey, we're for you, parents.
You think that
Giving the power back to the parents to understand they are your children.
it's never been taken away from
Just
them.
let me ask
Well, you
you,
do
Matt.
this, you remove this, you'll be taking it away. And I will sure make sure that everybody in this community knows this is the wording we want to we want to remove from your power. Go ahead.
Let me just
Call
ask
the
you
question.
this. I'm not calling a question yet. I just want to make the comment that I think you're mixing two different things.
I'm not, you're just trying to you're trying to devalue and the insignificance of what this wording actually does
You're not.
and pass it along like we don't need it. So then later on, we can just go right back to where we were doing. These are the changes that we made. So go ahead. I call the question.
Most of this has nothing to do with the purpose and the, and the topic of the
I
policy.
disagree with you.
Well, how does student personal and gender identity, that may be a topic that you're really concerned about, and I know
It
you
doesn't
are.
affect the classroom.
Just shut the hell up.
Go ahead then. Tell me. As a father, tell me.
Gentlemen, let's call the question because it's not,
I already did, but it's not being recognized.
There is no question. You would have to have a motion and a second.
we need
to
a
call.
motion if we want the policy changed.
I don't want to change the policy. I just want to change what the superintendent has done with ideological mission creep into things that don't pertain to the policy.
And we as a board have the
So-
power to change that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to reject the guidelines that have been developed because most of them are irrelevant to the purpose of the policy.
So you-
Policy itself, my stuff on that is like, substantial disruption. I guess that got eliminated. But
So your
that's
motion
not a
would
big
be-
thing, but I think the guidelines, he didn't do the job. He didn't do the job. He didn't do the guidelines for the application of this policy.
so your motion would be to
Reject the.
rewrite these?
Yeah, rewrite these, write some actual guidelines that pertain to the policy. Policy doesn't deal with parental rights, the policy doesn't deal with, gender identity, et cetera. They're all out there and they're all controversial, yes, but that's not what the policy deals with.
What's your ideas on how to do this? Any?
Well,
There's a motion on the floor.
there
There's no
is.
So it
motion.
hasn't been seconded yet.
You just motioned.
I motioned, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
there hasn't been a second, so.
You
I
want
will
to?
second it for discussion.
Okay.
Okay, Chris, ideas on how to redo this?
Well, I did not support this a year ago. I wouldn't support it now because I absolutely concur that these are not administrative guidelines for controversial issues in the classroom. These are, as it was parenthetically referred to, a parent's bill of rights, which you could have, but those are not administrative guidelines for controversial issues in the classroom.
Right.
The policy itself says when controversial issues have not been specified in the course of study, the board will permit the instructional use of only those which have been approved by the district administrator, who shall report periodically such approval to the board for their review. So my expectation would be administrative guidelines would clearly lay out what is approved based upon what we have as pre-approved curriculum. And a form to request permission for things that lie outside of that as part of, because controversial issues in the classroom is under the instructional program of the district. things that fall under the instructional program. This may need relabeling for consideration because I do concur. It is not it is not addressing this policy. It is addressing other controversial issues in schools across the nation. But I don't think it's in general controversial issues in the course of instructional study.
So what I'm hearing is rescinding this.
Yeah.
We already have this covered,
Well,
But then if we want-
request was to rewrite.
right? But if we rescinded this and then you would rewrite something, as you said, the Parents' Bill of Rights, or you would write something about,
Well, you
I
need
don't know.
administrative guidelines for controversial issues in the classroom.
Mhm.
Which,
that should be,
which are fundamentally peripheral to this.
right? And we need that.
Yeah,
What I'm hearing is he wants to remove the words in the classroom. I'd be okay with that.
What?
Keep the policy titled controversial issues, remove in
Oh,
the
that's
classroom,
that's not the policy.
and then the rest of it. That's what he said. I mean, this is something that's, the in the classroom is what bothers you. It has nothing to do with that. Then remove the words in the classroom. Or change the title of this to the Parents' Bill of Rights as to what it was so-called named when it was brought up. Change it to the Parents' Bill of Rights. All of these still being in the policy.
Well, that's a separate policy.
Okay,
That's a whole separate policy.
change the number, change the title to the Parents' Bill of Rights. I
Well,
could
that's
accept
not
that
what,
amendment.
that's not what we're discussing.
I could accept that amendment. I promise you, this is my hill.
Yeah, I know.
And
I
I'm,
get that.
I have
You know,
cooperated on everything I possibly could that I felt was, something that should be cooperated with. This is one I will not.
okay, it's a free country.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, motion,
The motion is to separate this from, and to say this is not acceptable as an administrative guide to the application of policy, whatever the number is. What's the number?
policy 2240.
Yeah, 2240, controversial issues in the classroom. This goes way beyond that. But if you want to get together a policy that embodies this, then that's a different matter, that's all. Okay, that's the motion.
so your motion is to separate this, rescind that? Katie, is that making sense to you listening to the?
That's what I was just, I think, so I'm understanding that you would like to rescind these administrative guidelines. I think the word policy is being interchanged and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, so rescind the administrative guidelines
Yes.
from 2240.
Yes.
And then would there be any change then to where those administrative guidelines go or changing that, or is that a separate, that would be a separate?
Well, these would, with the motion, well, we're only recommending it, the whole board.
To the board, yeah.
At this point.
Would there be an update to the administrative guidelines so they?
There'd have to
can
be
be
new
more
administrative
accurately
guidelines that are pertinent to the policy.
I would hope that
Any controversial issues in the classroom would have to be rewritten. So it's classroom issues. And then if somebody wants to come up with a Bill of Rights for parents, they can write that
Yeah.
and have the board vote on that.
Yeah.
But that has to be removed from this because I think Chris was correct that some of this isn't appropriate anymore for this. So this would be rescinded just to handle the issues within a classroom that would be academic. And then a parent Bill of Rights, if that's what you want, that we would write and have these other issues that you feel are important as a parent to have.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not,
you need a second, so we can go on with the yays and the nays.
yes, yeah.
Right. I'll second Carrie.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
What are we voting on now?
To rescind this And this needs to be rewritten for just classroom issues.
Okay. Gotcha.
Is
Does that make
that,
sense? It's recorded. We can get it off of there. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. And if somebody at some point would like to step forward with a separate policy on parent rights, please bring that to the board.
Well, I mean, it has to be, I mean, approved on to be rescinded. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
Yeah, because it's still in effect until we have a board meeting and then it gets removed officially. Yes, correct. Okay.
Stands as is.
Yep. 2260.
So here again, you'll have the current policy, what has been adopted, and then you'll have the original Neola recommendation template.
And our current policy differs how?
So if you look at the first paragraph.
right,
Actually, need this up. Here it is, my apologies. So if you look at the very first full paragraph, you can see the difference between,
second one.
yep, the Neola recommendation goes on to expand on some definitions of sex and sexual orientation and identification.
Say it. What's the difference?
So
It says
our
parenthetic.
Neola recommends that it goes on to define sex, including gender status, change of sex or gender identity. So we have chosen to exclude those two identifiers and parentheses on our current policy. That's the only difference.
And this policy only has to do with discrimination. Correct?
This is access to equal educational opportunity.
So we can't discriminate based on that.
So, yeah, so you can see on these two documents, the difference in the paragraphs.
Katie, did the league consult with our attorney on this?
Way back when, yes. And I believe that recommendation was shared, and you also had a learning session based on what was legally within your rights to choose as a board.
Since then, I'm just gonna say this once, because I'm not gonna, I don't need to go beyond what the federal case going on right now already says. And as of right now, since the way beyond discussion, the state of Kansas versus the United States Department of Education, which does include two separate groups, one of them meaning Moms for Liberty, has identified students in every school that we have except for Madison, as far as I know. So and that is protected. If you do want to change all of these, we have to have double policies. We have to have ones for every other school, and then you can change the one for Madison, because they don't, as far as I know, they might not have a parent for student for Moms for Liberty in that school. They are part of the protected lawsuit.
I guess I don't get your point.
My point is, changing this would go against that federal court case and order right now. So if you're to do it for all schools, as of right now, as from what I know, Madison is the only school that doesn't have it. A member inside, a parent of a student, of a member of that group, they are listed in this lawsuit with the state of Kansas and another group. I don't know all the names that are in it.
You are correct, Matt. That is in regard to Title IX updates that
Correct.
we have tabled.
And this is part of Title IX changes, any of the policies that are covered in it. I mean, these are along with it. That wording right there that you're adding is something that's coming from Neola and is taken right out of the first paragraph of Title IX. It's part of all of our policy. So I'm just gonna say we're gonna go through all this, and that was the one description I have. And I'm not gonna say it again. If you wanna vote to change it and bring it to the board, I'm cool with that. But, I'm a nay on all those. So there you go.
So those are the, it's federal court, but it's the different divisions throughout the country, because I know that there's 2 or 3 that have
And they have included some
struck
national.
down the executive order to follow the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, there's some.
That are by jurisdictions, but they also
Right.
included
But
something that
it's-
was broad with the Moms for Liberty.
Right, but it hasn't gone to the, well,
They've gotten through and they've included some national groups, and it has encompassed like 45 or 48 states, so.
so
We are part of that, and we do have some parents that are part of that group and have students in every one of our schools, except for Madison.
they're saying it's okay to discriminate against.
Has nothing to do with that. I'm talking about the federal court. It's not okay to discriminate, and our current policy makes sure nobody's gonna be discriminated. Changing the wording, just like your guidelines, as far as I'm concerned, changing the wording isn't gonna help, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight here, but I do want everybody,
My dog.
regardless of, how you describe them, define them, et cetera, to have, not be discriminated against for the purposes of access of equal educational opportunity. And I just see this parenthetical statement, parentheses, including gender status, change of sex, or gender identity,
Correct.
simply as, sort of expanding the term sex to include that,
Yep,
okay?
yep.
So that if you, I know your argument, the argument that was presented when we did this, that if you take that out and just leave it at sexual orientation and sex, that, everybody's still covered, right?
Everybody is still covered.
Okay, so my question is like, why do you object to those terms?
You're doing the same thing I asked you about the guidelines, and I understand that, and I have a response for you as well, too, to be honest with you. My concern is with any of the policies that are covered within Title IX. And Title IX was originally meant to protect women and school girls and women athletes and things like that. The perversion of this entire title that has been changed several times has gone way beyond what it was intended for. Title IX in its original intent was meant to protect women and meant to protect
Well, it was
women
meant to
athletes
include
and girls athletes and girls students, because they didn't have certain rights and things like that. That was
They were being systematically.
correct. That's what this was meant for.
Discriminated against, yes.
If they want to make more policies and more laws, they can change it, but they cannot change the original title. And that's being fought in federal court right now. And until that is finished, that federal court case is finished, right now, they've enlisted some protection.
But that wasn't my question.
There's some
Why,
injunctions in there.
it's just, it's parenthetical.
Right.
And it just wants to, it's just
That's fine.
an attempt to clarify
Okay.
what's said in the words.
Can we go back to the guidelines as well, and you can ask the same question to yourself? We'll answer them both at the same time, because I
No,
asked the
they're
very
very
same
different,
question.
very different in my mind at least. Because the policy now says parental status, sexual orientation, sex, comma,
Yep.
or physical, mental, emotional, etc. So why would you object to the extra words being there in parentheses? Just to kind of, make sure that, the terminology that precedes it is understood.
Right now, we don't have it. And if you're saying the same thing as me, if it's not going to change anything, then why add it? I vote to leave it the way it is. I'm a nay. I gave you my explanations for any of these extra ones. Let's move on with it.
Oh, I guess I missed that part,
Yes.
but.
I recall, and because we see so many of them, I don't recall which policy it was, but I know we amended a policy to simply state that protected classes as defined by state and federal law,
There you go.
which covers everything
Yeah, that's.
rather
that's
than a remuneration, and may, besides being a clear solution, may allow us to have less of a catalog like we have here.
Yeah, I agree
Of
with that.
things that we
totally.
won't discriminate on.
So federal law right now protects.
But I don't remember which policy.
Actually, this has been, I've addressed this with you when you were sitting back here during a meeting one time. This isn't this is our current policy. These words on here actually is supposed to be exactly what Chris just said. That was something that we voted and it went through to change it. So it was,
I don't know if it was 2260 or.
I'll go back and I'm gonna listen to the words. I'm gonna find out exactly which ones we're talking about, every single one.
When we had to submit our pupil non-discrimination self-evaluation for the state of Wisconsin. And part of that referenced the same list of protected classes as identified in Wisconsin statute 118, to your point, Chris. I believe it was that conversation, was when we were going through that self-assessment.
Right, and was this part of one of the policies that was listed in there?
We had to list our non-discrimination policies.
Okay, so, and one of the things was to put that in there and have these changed to all protected classes.
To reflect that, and I believe that was the language that was amended on the pupil non-discrimination plan.
But this right here is reflective of,
We didn't change policy at that point, we just changed wording on that plan that was submitted to the state.
I'll have to look, I don't remember the exact words of the thing, so I'll have to look it up.
That was the language that we chose to amend on the plan.
Okay.
That had to be submitted, but in reference to the policy.
I guess, there's 2 points of view on that. I mean, I kind of like Chris's solution to that, just all protected classes, the and. I mean, it really does, it's a very inclusive clause. Whereas, when public opinion changes and stuff like that, well, you just
I like
add
the way you
to
worded
the
it.
drain here.
That's why I thought we
And,
changed it.
and there's maybe too many words there.
So it would have to be reworded.
It says protected classes on 2260 right now as the current.
Yeah, it just says in parentheses, protected classes,
Yeah.
as if it's explaining, that's what we just listed for you. It doesn't say other protected classes.
Yeah,
It
no,
says those
all
protected
protected
classes.
classes.
Where it seems to me, it would just be
Yeah, I
simple
would
to say,
go for that.
That's what we have.
right, protected
I
classes
mean, good
as
writing
defined
is
by
always
state and
like,
federal law.
eliminate
Do we need a
unnecessary.
motion on this?
Sure,
That's what I'm looking for. Do you want to?
I'll motion,
yeah.
I'll motion that we remove
The
the
list.
words, protected, that we actually, it's where it says protected under state or federal law, including all protected classes in its selection of instruction, materials, and equipment, and remove every other word there, removing the word, but not limited to race, color, religion, national origin, ancestry, creed, pregnancy, marital status, parental status, sexual orientation, sex, or physical, mental, emotional, or learning disability. We change all of that to just all protected classes in its selection of instruction, materials, and equipment.
Yeah. Isn't that clear enough?
Would we want to?
It's gotta be clear enough for the lawyers.
Legal, just to make sure there's no
Yes.
reason
Sure.
to pull those out specifically.
Sure, just changing those words to all protected classes and removing all of that.
Ramifications in doing that.
Yeah. So can we get that
Make it the
checked?
board does not discriminate, period.
Against anybody?
All state and federal protected classes.
Yeah.
Okay. So have the.
You made the motion, right?
Yeah.
I'll speak.
Did
Yeah,
you get a second?
I'll second the
Oh,
motion.
they're
I'll
just
second
There it
it.
is.
Do we need that to do research?
Well, this is to make the change if the lawyer can support it. If not, then come back with what the lawyer supports that fits with what we're trying to do. Sure.
I would say let's do that research and then we'll bring it back.
Okay, all right.
Oh, so forget the motion.
Get that. Yeah, you don't need the motion.
Okay.
2521. Collection of materials and equipment.
This is that should have the same
I don't know, I had,
conversation, I believe. So
Yeah.
this is again.
yeah, it is.
List of This is just instructional materials as opposed to access to instruction.
Motion to make the same changes.
Send it to the attorney.
Yeah, send it.
The descriptors are down in the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph on this policy,
Do
so.
we need a motion to do that, or can we just do it?
Well, I thought it was understood it was all of that, so.
Yeah, send
Okay.
it on.
I know that.
Same question about
Yep.
language.
nurses.
If you find other policies.
Yep. I just said, I just made a motion to make the same changes.
Yeah.
And I know Lee has an update from legal around just the Title IX in general conversation.
Understandable.
And I believe that will be brought forth at our next meeting,
Okay.
so maybe we'll be ready with guidance.
We can do a motion, I just think if they're doing research on it, we don't really.
Sure,
we
no,
don't
that,
really need that.
you know, I wasn't necessarily objecting to that. The removing of the words, you know, never mind, it doesn't matter, we gotta go on.
School nurses.
Nurses.
School visitors.
Visitors.
School visitors.
I don't know where that.
Visiting.
It's been a long.
I don't know, do we want to touch this one now?
But I think this is the last thing.
Yes, last item.
So school visitors, here's a policy that, provides key fob entrance to non-staff members.
Yeah. I asked that this be put on there because I just don't think we need fobs anymore. My index finger is as good as anybody else's. And I'm just not sure why we have them.
They're motioning to bring that change to the board.
I'm motioning just to, bring it to the board that we don't need them. I've been on the county board for 24 years. I don't have a key.
So we're getting rid of the whole policy? Because
Well, the whole bottom part of the policy, yeah.
We don't need it. You don't need fobs.
So this is about all school visitors in general, so if there was
Yeah.
specific language change to certain groups of that, then, we would wanna take a look at, or you would wanna take a look at the A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That goes on to the second page,
Yeah, right.
which are additions to the second page, which is the Neola recommendation, so. But the policy is in general even about parents, and, so you would wanna make sure that you were specific about what parts of that.
Well, I guess the order of progression here is that we take a separate vote, of the board, whether they wish to retain, the distribution of fobs among school board members. And if it comes out, they say yes, then we need to keep this. If they say no, then we chuck it. So that the issue of the fobs is the real issue of
Right, of this policy.
in what you brought up.
Yeah.
So I think we just ask that question to the board.
Why do we have them?
Well, you would probably get an explanation, but, but I think we need a vote on that first before we change the policy.
Conversely, amending
Okay,
the
go ahead.
policy and then those amendments fail is that vote.
Yes.
It is.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
You
is.
can do it either way.
That's right.
I will make a motion to amend the policy to remove fobs from school board members.
Okay.
So to strike all the parts
Yeah.
of this policy that are related.
The school board members having fobs.
School board member files.
Yeah.
I'll second that for the sake of a vote. And
So
any
from-
further discussion. since we're
To ensure the safety and security of those.
Start, let me count, 1, 2,
We're start at,
3 paragraphs in.
oh, yeah. It's board members, it's the paragraph above that. So board members will be given electronic key fobs, key fob access. From there on to the end of the policy, be eliminated. Yep.
I will just say, I don't think, as a board member, we have any more privilege than just the parents that walk in our buildings. Anybody else? We press the button, we get in, and that's how it should be.
If would your committee want to then consider what Neola would recommend in regard to, there's some specific
Yes.
statements to board members on the bottom of the options, so that maybe.
I mean, unless the support is there to get rid of them, I'm not, let's not put the work into change it.
The motion is to rescind that and move it to the board. Do we have a second on that? I didn't hear that yet. and we have-
Yeah, I second it for sake of discussion. Yeah.
Discussion, any? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay.
I'm an A, but I'm just gonna go to the board anyway. So
Yeah, I know.
All right, that's all we got tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. Do I have a motion? Got a motion to adjourn to second?
Yeah.
Yeah, got a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.
Maybe you can break in between.
Motion.
Really?
All right, you say,
Is that curriculum? We said that? No, no.
I don't know. I have these meetings because I'm leaving.
oh, it's not 5 yet.
Wow. 5 o'clock. So you gave 5 years.
I gave 5-minute break to Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. If change. Absolutely, I guarantee you, on the same, the other as parents bill right, so that it's still in there. Okay, because I agree with you that we don't just banish it by rewriting it and then.
I have a strong suspicion that we're gonna see support in keeping the Bill of Rights, even if we have to change it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we.
Well, it's a clarity thing.
Mr. President? Yeah, it's a clarity.
Thank you for coming and hanging out with this. Motley crew. This motley crew. I'm good on everything. There's just one thing that I came here to make sure. I mean, as far as my whole existence. One hill I'm gonna die. Shit.
Well, don't you think it's cleaner to do it that way? Just what Chris said?
I agree. If they keep it and they say, just remove all of it.
I wasn't against what you were saying. I just wanted to make.
We both have priorities in our life, and I understand where you're coming from. And you're coming from a group of people that are pushing this.
I'm not pushing it.
I know you don't believe that, but you have to, and I understand. But I will fight against it. It's just the
Well,
way it
that's
is.
okay.
It's natural enemies. It's like the lion and the antelope. I promise you I'm the lion in this situation.
Yeah, okay.
I got my water. Have a good one, guys.
This will be a fast one.
They have one meeting a week on Tuesdays when they get through.
Today is the 5th.
But it's nice having them on Valentine's.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure the community will appreciate that.
This would be soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was great. Excited for it.
Well, just reading some of the comments that were.
Do you have backgrounds for that song, Joe? For the 5 o'clock?
So I copied my own.
That's great.
I'm going to. There's a real.
Yeah, I guess.
It's really interesting. Yeah, it's just interesting today. Because he didn't send everything.
It's in my